Good afternoon, everyone. How's it going? How's it going? Today's been a pretty good day and all that, so just having fun. All that. Thought, hey, why not? I'll go live since I finally finally got to read Amazing Spider-Man 50 and all that. So I normally get my books from on what was it? Crap, I'm having drawing a blank. Order them and get them delivered. I had to, I call up an LCS up there in Parker, Colorado, and Denver, and all that, and I get my books down. So, but they're a little late coming down, and so I just really wanted them to, be here. So, but they were late, so I couldn't wait to read the story because I knew Kindred's identity was being revealed in this episode, and I had to read it. So I paid an extra $6, for the Marvel app and read the story, and I wasn't disappointed. I was a little confused on some on bits and pieces of it, but most of it I understood perfectly well. So, for everyone aware, this is a spoilers. This is a spoilers show. Hangout. I'm talking about Kindred. I'm talking about both my theory, what I've seen about, but I'm also gonna reveal who he is. So if you have not read Amazing Spider-Man and you don't want to be spoiled, I would recommend that you stop watching now and come back later, because we are talking about Kindred at least some point in this video. So we give a shout out real quick to the two people who popped in here. Ace, good to see you. Welcome, welcome. And Louis, I hope I'm saying one of them too right. I always trip over my Spanish sounding, Hispanic sounding names. So because I'm any wider, I'd be Casper. So anyway, so it's been 2 years since Amazing Spider-Man 801. We were introduced to Kindred, and I was always interested in this character. Honestly, I mean, the history of Spider-Man is littered with mystery characters. You got, Crime Master, you got Green Goblin, you had King Goblin, which is, was basically Norman Osborn, again in the Dan Slott Superior arc. So but it was interesting there. So it was interesting. So I actually like it because other people are not surprised, or if they're not, or they're disappointed. But for me, reading these books, I was along for the ride and I was enjoying it because I don't think of myself as that smart and I'm able to fish out a character. I'm no Batman, the world's greatest detective and all that. But I'm reading the books and I'm trying to best going, okay, I'm in from the very beginning. I see this happening. I want to know. I'm here picking up pieces and all that. So I'm picking up bits and pieces here. He's kind to Mary Jane. Kindred wants her out of town. Has Kingpin bowed down, scared of him. Mysterio has been brought back, and so it's weird and all that. So I just couldn't quite piece it for the longest time. I mean, I had some guesses in a sense, but it was very interesting, because I listened to a podcast called The Amazing Spider Talk with Dan Gavaznak and Mark Janacchio are the hosts, and they've been talking about Kindred a lot too, because they review the books as well as talk about other Spider-Man stuff. And so they're talking about things and bringing things up. Kindred's acting a certain way. He's doing this and all that. It's just very interesting. I find it very, very interesting. Everyone, you guys are welcome to chat. If anyone here doesn't know, you're welcome to ask questions or whatnot, and I'll do that. But I'm studying and I'm trying, and for the longest time I had no idea. I wanted it to be someone big, someone big and all that, because Kindred here refers to Spider-Man as Pete. That's one of the clues they talk about in the very beginning. He's always talking about Peter Parker as Pete. And we know because, and one of the things that they mentioned about on Amazing Spider Talk, the podcast, and it's also a channel here on YouTube. that Pete is a informal name and all that. How it's you like if I was I refer to I have a friend named Peter. I would call him Pete, kind of a thing, or call me Pete. It's an informal, very relaxed tone of voice. So the Pete signifies close to Spider-Man, close to Peter Parker. And that's one of the things, too, when I'm thinking about it, going, well, you got Mary Jane, you got Gwen, you got, other people like that, Harry Osborn. Wasn't sure if Norman Osborn ever called him Pete, but it was always interesting. Hey, Ruben, good to see you. Welcome to the show. So we're talking about Kindred here, so it's going to be a lot of fun here, because one of the things I want to talk about is Kindred. I just wanted to hang out, so. But I'm here watching this, and watching and reading and all that, and sometimes I'm, getting confused, going to be like, during the Hunted arc, where he's, like, looking over Mary Jane while she's sleeping and all that, and the centipede or whatever crawling, like, he doesn't want to hurt her, so it's like, there's a fondness for Mary Jane and all that, he got her out of town, but they mentioned that this is a guy that's also dead, has been dead, or is dead, and all that. So it's like weird because, okay, who do you know that's dead? You got George Stacy, Gwen Stacy, Harry Osborn, characters that have died. But I wasn't sure. But my first real insight into who Kindred was came from Amazing Spider-Man number 30 and all that. It was, I'm just watching it and all that, and I'm reading it and just trying to see it here. He's looking at it. He's walking down in Ravencroft here, and he stops and he's looking at Norman, and he's talking about, in fact, here, I think I have some of the pictures here I'll bring up. Let me share the screen. Come on. My computer wants to be slow today. But yeah, number 30 here was when I got my first hint in who I thought Kindred might be. Come on, stupid thing. This thing doesn't load up, it'll be difficult on me. Because a lot of what I wanted to show... here it is. Finally. I guess I need to open that first. It might help. Yeah. All right. Application window. Let's do it again. Share screen. There we go. So one of the first things I saw was this here. As soon as it comes up. When it rains, it pours. Am I right with the problems? Come on. You can do it. Here we go. So this panel here and all that, where he starts peeking in. We don't see us Norman Osborn until the next page, but we see him, I could laugh, and while you screamed and kicked and cried and all that. And he's talking about how you made him you were so terrifying, always made him feel powerless, whether the mask was on or not. So all this signifies that this is a very, very personal connection. I'm looking at this, it's telling me that it's like personal connection. There's something here, some unsettled grudge. This is where it started to ring a bell for me, that something was just not, something was extremely personal, the best way to put it. The whole book basically is flashbacks of things are going through, but I won't go through it all because and all that. But he's talking about, talking about connection. It's just connections. But he's telling Norman later on, that you were so much more terrifying than all the others and all that. Just, it's weird. And then, like, right here, this one page, in this next panel here, seriously, when they're about to walk away, and all that. He's saying like this, this is only goodbye for now, Norman, and all that, and that when he comes back and they're face to face and he's in his right mind again, that they can, the truth together, one big happy family. Now I know people say, happy, be together, one big happy family can mean just a free figure of speech, like I use it one time too. I use it too in conversations, one big happy family, just, getting along kind of thing. But the way he's talking to Norman, said, and then using the word family, I started to suspect Harry Osborn as Kindred. And especially at the very bottom of the page, this panel. Or not the bottom of that page and all that. So he's talking about, when he's talking about Norman's not here, but I'm sure he'd like say, I'm proud of you, and he's laughing at him. If you look over here at his face as Norman's laughing at him, I recognize that look. Honestly, I recognize that look every single time I'm home or I leave. I know, because a little bit of personal history here. I don't get along with my dad. After my parents got divorced when I was 12, I went into a kind of a depression and all that, and we won't get too far into it, but my relationship has been deteriorating with my dad for the past almost 20 years now. So, and he's done things in the past here, and then he's made me, it hasn't hurt me on purpose, but some of his actions and what he does or doesn't say hurt me. But I recognize his face here, Kindred's face, as what usually is on mine when I'm talking about my dad or when I'm leaving his house from a family dinner and all that. I can see the anger, that only comes from I love you as my dad, but I hate who you are, kind of a thing. I don't like the kind of man my dad is. And so I recognize that level of anger at someone who's affected you in your life in some way. And so that's when I truly started to suspect Norman Osborn and all that, or not Norman Osborn, Harry Osborn. And in the next, let's get the books organized so they're not separate. And, Amazing Spider-Man 31 here, the variant cover that I got. More stuff by Norman and all that. We see things, a relationship between Harry and Norman and all that. And, it was just very interesting, this little Carnage tie-in. We see so much with Spider-Man's, history and all that. I see the connection between Norman and Harry, but it's not till the very end where I think we talk about more. Well, maybe I had the wrong page, so I was showing you panels for the wrong book. I'm sorry, but yeah, we had more of that where it's just, you just see that. So these last pages here, let me get the thing back up here. But these last pages here, we see, from Amazing Spider-Man 31, Legacy 832, we see the connection. And so I truly suspected Norman Osborn. Other people, there's those arguments for being Mary Jane. There's arguments for being George Stacy with all the lookouts throughout the 50 issues. Just look out, look out, look out. Okay, how many times can you quote George Stacy, and just talking about sins and all that. Just all of those characters refer to Pete, too. One of the theories was interesting was talking about a connection between, Mephisto and the One More Day storyline, the wiping out of the marriage and all that. and it was talking about it. And one of the theories by one of the guys from Amazing Spider Talk podcast is that it might have been a manifestation, of the marriage that was wiped out, because Kindred showed up when Peter and Mary Jane got back together, when he started reversing on the deals that he made with Mephisto, wiping out his identity, wiping out his as Spider-Man, and setting things back to normal in the Brand New Day storyline. So it was very interesting. I was like, and so here, like I said, so let's dive. I'll show you. And like I said, so spoilers from here on out. These next few pages are screenshots from Amazing Spider-Man 50. So Legacy 851. So if you do not want to be spoiled, I would not want to watch any further if you haven't read it. So, but speaking of which, that's gorgeous art. I love it. So there's arguments for a marriage made whole. Gwen, Mary Jane, or Dark Mary Jane, George Stacy, Harry Osborn. It had to be someone like that, because again, it's Pete. It's all this going after Peter, terrifying, making him suffer, not just yet teasing kind of thing, but still, all that. All this screams extremely personal. So it's not just going to be some brand new villain off the streets. This is going to be Jonathan Robertson, a freshman from Empire State. This is something personal. And so I had my bet on Harry Osborn. So it's just really cool, and just to finally see the artwork or whatever. And so when this is opening up, he's talking about, finally he's talking about, play enough games, and I promise, because Kindred's still dead, or Kindred's dead, I think, or whatever the character, so whoever it was. But it was weird. Oh, one of the other things they talked about on the Spider Talk podcast was that I wasn't sure about the Harry Osborn that's alive today, the Harry Lineman character, who's flying around on a goblin glider and go down swinging in the end of every dance slots, 800 and 799, fighting, the Red Goblin. That, Harry Osborn died in, was it Spectacular Spider-Man 200 or something? He died, and so he had died in that. So it was like, but then he appears after the marriage is wiped out by Mephisto, and he appears in Brand New Day. So it's like, is this Harry Osborn, or is this some sort of different guy back? Like a Mephisto watchdog to make sure that Peter's deal isn't broken. So back here when we're opening up here, and he's talking to himself and about to say we're gonna made flesh or come back and all that, and then boom, George Stacy. I was like going, okay, is he? So my thought is, I was wrong. That is, is it really George Stacy? Gonna bring back, digging up his own body somehow and gonna come back that way. So I was like, man, George Stacy, that would have been the only way I would have been disappointed. A dark Mary Jane somehow, or a Gwen Stacy, or Harry Osborn, something like that, I would understand. But if this was who Kindred was, I was gonna be disappointed, honestly. But I kept on reading. There's artwork. I was a little confused. Like I said, I don't have every single page here, because I only clipped things that were kind of relevant to what I wanted to talk about. And so we move on. Like I said, Norman was thrown out when he said the thing to Gwen about the innuendo to Sin's past and all that, and sleeping with Gwen and and the Spider Kids and all that, or not, but Goblin Kids. So he's just been cleansed by the Sin Eater and all that. Peter, so. And then Peter's going to Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is mentioning, telling him about the truth, so she doesn't know how. And he's talking about like the deal with the devil, or I think deal with the devil, or a demon entity, and making a price to being paid. So this to me is more of this more of the stuff that screams to me that's something to do with the marriage. Kindred has something to do with the marriage and being wiped out. It was very interesting. So I've been convinced by the Amazing Spider Talk podcast and the guys on there that this character Kindred has something to do with Mary Jane and Peter's marriage that was annulled in One More Day and all that. And I'm convinced that and when they got back together and they started undoing or getting back together and undoing the deal in a sense. So and then right here at the very end, we see Kindred making a dinner table, doing more stuff. And then he, thrill of getting together and all that. And so that's when this page in there creeped me out a bit because I already knew he dug up George, but Gwen, and so I was like, all right. So when I saw this picture here, I'm like, okay, it's not George Stacy, that's Kindred. Because why would he dig up his daughter too? I thought he'd be digging up himself to bring himself back to life. So, so it's like weird. So everyone going, I know, okay, it's not Kindred, so that means it still might be the guy who I wanted to believe, and all that. And so yeah, we have Norman Osborn, cleaned of his sins, a good guy. No, I'm guessing no longer insane. He's talking to some director here, going, we need to. The real guy behind the scene eater was a bad guy named Kindred and all that. And we got to, go get him. I got to help him and all that. And she's like, why are you helping him? Or why do you want to help them? And then the very next page. So again, if you don't want to be spoiled, I'd leave right now because, why does Norman Osborn, cleaned of his sins, want to help Kindred? Because he is his son. I was right. You know how excited I was to actually be right. That I never guess these things correctly. This is extremely difficult. But that I ever get that I'm always seem to be wrong. That I don't think creatively, but every sign that I read after, maybe Spider-Man 30 and 31, I was lost beforehand, but I kept on picking up signs of Harry Osborn, the relationship between Kindred and Norman, the anger there, the unsettled issues, the almost, I will laugh at your pain feel. But to actually guess that Harry Osborn was Kindred was exciting. So, I still don't understand, okay, but reading this story here, says that this Harry Osborn is not alive, that, he's not part of the real world yet, I think. And so that, I kept on thinking back to the podcast where they're going, where it's talked about Harry Osborn died. The Harry Osborn of Brand New Day was not really Harry Osborn, the Harry lineman and Go Down Swinging and all that. I'm not Harry Osborn, I'm Harry Lineman, his mother's maiden name, and all that. So I have no idea why Harry Osborn, not that he's, or why he snapped or become Kindred and all that, or why he's doing this. What's his reason for going after Peter in such a way? What great sin has Spider-Man Peter Parker done that would, going back on his word, not getting back together with Mary Jane? Did he do something to Harry Osborn and he's finally conscious enough and all that to take revenge, and all that, and how the hell did he get all these supernatural powers? This is still confusing, so I'm really looking forward to this next what's the next I'm looking at that's not gonna have the answers in it. Last Remains, or crap, what is it? Can't think of it. Yeah, Last Remains. I really look forward to this Last Remains story arc. I'm hoping for answers. Why Harry is going after Peter, why he's going after these characters, why he's tearing apart their world to burn to the ground. I'm really looking forward to this storyline. I thought Going Down Swinging was a great story. That and I found Hunted, cool and all that. But this story arc, I'm really excited for because one of the reasons why I heard someone talk about, I think it was an interview on Amazing Spider Talk podcast with Jerry Conway and all that, why he liked Harry Osborn as the Green Goblin, was that it was like something about that whole best friends turned enemies angle. And that what you're going to get here is best friends, enemies, and turned enemies angle. And that's really exciting, I find. So I really like that whole idea. It's extremely personal. This is no holds barred down and dirty to the, this is low blow central. This is definitely has to be. So I am super excited. I am super excited for Last Remain story arc. So that's just what I thought. So I correctly guessed that Harry Osborn was Kindred. I was hoping, just because, like I said, it was in 31 here, 30 and 31 of Amazing Spider-Man, that I started to suspect because of Kindred's reactions to Norman. Not just what he was saying to Norman, but when Norman was taunting him back with the message and all that, and Kindred not liking what he was hearing. Like I said, it clicked something in my mind that, flashbacks and all that. I don't have the best relationship with my dad. I saw my relationship with my dad in the exchange between Norman and Kindred. And so I started thinking father-son angle. And I didn't let go of it. I was almost convinced at times that it was other things. Like I said, Amazing Spider Talk podcast, they did reviews of all the books starting from the Superior run. And now they're up here to this, and here they're up to current and all that. And so they're doing reviews, and they're giving good argues for that. The Kindred is the embodiment of Mary Jane and Peter's marriage. There's a good argument for why it might be Mary Jane. Why it might be George Stacy. Because Kindred not liking the fact that Peter moaned or said Gwen's name in his sleep while he's in bed with Mary Jane and all that, kind of thing. They talk about innocence and way back then. So I'm going to have to go back one of these days here and reread, quickly reread Amazing Spider-Man, 801 to current, and, skip all the major stuff, but just read the stuff about Kindred. Hell, that would be a great trade, I would think, or our omnibus kind of thing. Everything just Kindred from 801 all the way to the end of Last Remains. I think that would be a really great trade, especially if you like the story, which it wasn't. Well, it was always like, it was agonizing slow. It's been almost 2 years. It's like, tell us who you are, please. This is driving me crazy. But I'll never have to guess correctly. And I don't know if I would be able to guess correctly if I hadn't had, like I said, seen my relationship with my dad in the exchange between Kindred and Norman Osborn in the straitjacket in Amazing Spider-Man 31 here. Like I said, that was my first. I couldn't let go of Harry Osborn after that, no matter how many good arguments I heard. I don't know how many good arguments I heard that it was, that it could be this person or it could be this person and all that. So it's very interesting and all that. I watched a Reggie Collect video and all that where he showing like article or whatever on Kindred's identity and all that he hadn't read it because he doesn't like the current Nick Spencer run and all that, which I understand. Some of the book stories were a little but he wasn't impressed by Kindred's reveal. So I understand, it could be a little disappointing, but I'm so enthralled by the idea that it is Harry that, I guessed correctly, but I'm not upset that I guessed correctly. Like, I wanted a true mystery. This sucks. I guessed correctly. Big surprise is ruined. I know it was underneath my presents, underneath the tree. Boo. I guessed correctly. I got to use my head, use my deduction, use my reasoning, and correctly identify and correctly guess Kindred's identity. So that excites me even more for the character because I was able to correctly guess. But then again, that's just how I am, you know. I like to use my mind and all that. And so if I correctly guess something, if I correctly guess how a movie's going to go, or a book's going to end, or a character's secret identity is, if I correctly guess based on clues throughout the story, I'm not upset that I guessed correctly. I'm kind of excited because it proves I was right. I mean, who doesn't like being proved right, honestly? So, anyway, that's my episode, my comic book hangout here. If anyone wants to, anyone has any comments or anything they want to talk about while we're doing this and all that, while I'm still here, since I see this has been a very, very low attendance video for live, but I don't blame anyone else. You know, this is not the most engaging in some conversations. Yes, I did. So, yes, I did. Yes, I did. I correctly guessed it, and I'll sum it up again just why that. I mean, I won't spoil it for you if you want to be surprised here, but I correctly guessed it from Amazing Spider-Man 31 here. I guessed it because of the relationship between me and my dad I saw in the exchange between Kindred and Norman in the straitjacket. You know, we don't have the best relationship. You know, in fact, sometimes I actually hate my dad. I mean, not something people want to hear. Okay, but I correctly guessed it. So I was thinking Harry Osborn. You know, I was thinking that reminds me of a relationship between a father and a son. You know, who don't get along, and so, you know, so I guess I got my poor relationship with my dad to give credit for helping me deduct this, because ever since then I saw clues of Harry everywhere. Before 31 here, it was like, okay, he used the term Pete, so that obviously means very close, not a stranger, because otherwise a stranger would use Peter. There's a fondness for Mary Jane. Well, that could be someone who has a crush on him, or a crush on her, or a family member, or just another person who's older and kind in general. So, but yeah, I was just really happy I guessed it correctly. So, yeah, that is my whole video there. So, anything else to talk about? Let's see. Yeah, no, nothing really. But yeah, so anyone who's watched the video here, who was in the chat for a little bit, or hung out for 5 seconds or 5 minutes or 32, which, you know, thank you guys very much for joining. If you haven't subbed me up yet, you know, I would appreciate the sub, you know, help my channel grow, you know, hit the like, you know, get this video circulating better. And the algorithms, as other people like to say. Next week, I should be dropping my collection video. I'm not sure what yet. We'll have to see. I have tomorrow to record it. Then coming up here in about 2 weeks, I have the semifinals of the Knockout. We got Southern Comic Geek versus Lady Fantastic. They will be arguing Bishop from X-Men Team Gold against Thor. So, really cool. If anyone can argue Bishop and win, it's Southern. And Lady Fantastic is a real shark. She can definitely argue. So, and then on the other semifinal, we got Burke Family 54, who was arguing Darkseid, and Discovery Bay Comics, JB, arguing for Wolverine. So, I have my guess on who's going to make it to the final round. But we'll see who it is. So in about 2 weeks, we're going to have the semifinals start for the Knockout. And then about a week after that, we'll have the finals. Maybe. But I think you can do it, Southern. You know, I think you can do it. After all, doesn't Bishop kind of absorb power and all that? After all, Storm hit him with lightning in the Days of Future Past movie and all that, and charged him up. And doesn't Thor shoot lightning? So it seems to me that it's bringing a gun to a hammer fight. So I think that, if that would be an argument that I make, that no matter what Thor hits him with, he just charges up with it and fires it right back. But that would be one of my arguments. Yeah, so that's it for now. Take care, everyone. Please hit that like button, hit that sub if you're not subbed up yet. And I will see you guys soon for the next episode of whatever drops. So take care, everyone. Happy collecting, as always. Stay safe out there. Talk to you later, and good night.